Good morning and happy Thursday. I see a lot of good mornings coming in the comments. Always makes me smile. It's a nice way to start the mornings. Having a lot of people saying good morning to each other. You're not too spoiled with that these days. But welcome to this 2 minute Thursday, and it's more going to be 20-minute Thursday. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with the concept 2 minute Thursday, that is something I do every Thursday on this channel where I talk about a subject related to HR in some sense, or leadership in some sense, every Thursday morning. So if you haven't watched those videos in the past, and if you would like to see the videos coming out in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button, or prenumerera, as we say in Swedish. And a lot of familiar faces. I'm so happy that you're here. You're always, or you. I am always scared that there's not gonna be anyone showing up to these webinars or these live sessions. So I'm super happy about that you are all here. Yeah, that said, let's just dive into why I think most of you are here, or why I am here at least, and that is to talk about remote work after COVID. And when I posted this on LinkedIn, someone pointed out, or someone, Bodil, pointed out that, hey, when is remote work after COVID? Like, will there be an after COVID? And I hope so. And maybe that's more about my hope than anything, but I certainly hope there's going to be a time where we can see each other, where we can hug, and where we can just hang out with each other again. So that is the time I mean when I say remote work after COVID. So the time when we can be able to hug again. So just to make that clear. And will it be sort of a set date? So all of a sudden, 10th of May, then we will be able to hug? No, probably most likely not. It would probably be a sort of gradual change into this sort of post-COVID world. But I sure hope that we will end up there soon, or yeah, maybe not that soon, but sometime at least. So before we do anything else, or before I start talking, I actually want you to be participant in this as well. And I think if the tech is working, I also posted this in the comment section now, where you go into menti.com/long sort of thingy. You can also go to menti.com just and type the code. But I want you to just tell me, how would you like to work in the future? And there are 4 alternatives. And if you're in HR, like, don't think about how would I like my organization to work. Like, how would you want to work? Your personal preferences. That's what I'm after here. So I'm gonna give it sort of a couple more seconds here and see if this works and if we are getting any results. I don't want to affect you before here as well. So I'm sure hoping that this works. And you can go to menti.com/the long thingy, or menti.com, and then type in the code to end up in the question. And I see I have a screen over here where I can actually see it as well. But just let's take a look at the results. Couple of seconds more, just for the last ones that are sort of just getting there. Still some coming in. Interesting. But what we can see here is that most of you want to be, you want to work flexible. Like, it's very clear. No one is wanting to go 100% to the office again. No one. Yeah, that's super interesting. We'll see how this matches up with the rest of the surveys that I've looked into. But yeah, very interesting. And I think if you want this very sort of unscientific sort of data set, I think you can ask for it in an email as well afterwards if you want to save it for some reasons. Obviously, this will be saved as well. This whole video will be saved, so you can always go back and look at this. But yeah, super interesting. No one wants to work from the office. But what I've done, I'm not going to build my whole video around that survey. But what I've done is that I've looked to 6 other studies that have been conducted throughout the world, and I really want to emphasize that I'm piggybacking on their results here. Like they did the job, I did the easy part where I just looked at the service, read the service, and interpreted the service. And I will also add my lens to it as well, hopefully. So that is what I'm going to cover here, like what these 6 studies shows, my interpretation of that, and also what other people are doing. Partly based on this, I assume, but also partly on their own thoughts as well. And then I have sort of a small bonus slide in the end as well. So stay tuned for that. But that's what we're going to cover here. So it's 6 studies. It's PwC, it's Netigate, it's Eurofond, Forbes, Pew Research Center, and Global Workplace Analytics. And they conducted surveys throughout the year, throughout the past year. The most recent one being Netigate. The second most recent one will be PwC. So it's good to know that these are conducted in a sort of in a COVID world. Like these are conducted when the pandemic is upon us. So they are all quite relevant, I would say, at least. And what do they say? Like there's one common denominator for all these 6 studies, and it shows that people are productive. It's super clear that productivity has not been affected by going into a COVID world. If you ask people, and you gotta bear that in mind, like when you ask people, they might tend to skew it somehow, but both managers, when they survey them separately, and employees say that productivity stays the same, or in some instances, in some surveys, it's better than it were pre-COVID and fully remote work. And I think the reason why I bring this up is I think that a lot of us, myself included to some extent, also had this notion when we went into remote work, like, okay, productivity will most likely suffer from us not being in the same room or being close to each other anymore. Like we will most likely see a decrease in productivity. But I think to some certain extent we can say that this is not true. Like the productivity remains on a stable level or even higher level. So I mean, yeah, it's just interesting to reflect on that was at least an assumption I had that is no longer true. But what it shows is that collaboration suffers. But Sandra asks, employers or employees, both says that productivity has gone up. Employers actually say to a larger extent that productivity has gone up in the PwC study, for example, versus the employees. But what the Global Workplace Analytics survey points out is that in some instances, collaboration suffers. Big meetings works well for most people in that survey. They say like when it's a big meeting, when it's an information meeting, or when it's a larger group than 3, it works equally as good to be doing that through video. But when it's smaller groups, less than 3, and one-on-one collaboration, that then collaboration takes a toll. So that's also something I think to bear in mind, that it's not all yay and hooray. Like there are obviously then obstacles to face when you go into this. So that's that about productivity and collaboration. Like there isn't a ton of data around that. I think this is an area where we could do more, to be honest. Like especially looking at the sort of true productivity, whatever that is, but also looking obviously then on the long-term effects that this will have on the people that works within the company. Like how will this truly affect people long-term? That we will have to see and figure out. But the service, they don't put a lot of emphasis around this. Like they obviously mention it, but their main focus is where do you want to work from, sort of. So let's talk about that then, because that we have a huge data set around that. So I mean, this is the office, and no one wants to work in the office. That's super clear. Like that's, I mean, it's more than what you who are watching this would want. Like in the PwC study, 8% said that they would want to work from the office full time. In the Netigate survey, interestingly enough, 24% says they want to work full time from the office. But it's a very small portion. Like I mean, remember a year ago when we all more or less worked from the office. Now only 8% globally in the big PVC study says they want to work from the office, and only 24. Like, it's not even close to majority that want to work from an office. That used to be the norm. So that's yeah, your data set sort of reflects what the overall the overarching studies at large shows as well. And I mean, all studies shows this. Like, I haven't found a single data point that points to I want to work. There's a majority that wants to work from the office when this is over. And this is my office at home. Do they want to work from home? No, they don't either. Like, it's also super clear that most people don't want to work 100% remotely either. And that also reflected, I mean, in the super small sample we did here, like, majority of you didn't want to work 100% from your home office either, or from your home, or from a cafe or whatever. So what do people want then? And as you probably can tell, and I mean, the survey initially here showed that as well, people want flexibility. Like, it's super, super clear that most people, they want to have the option to choose for themselves. Like, I want to choose when I work from the home or when I work from the office. And 73% of the employees in the Netagate survey, they state that super clearly that we want both. We want to. I want to work from both places. So I think also that is, yeah, not surprising maybe, but I think it's just good to reconfirm that it's not about leaving the office fully, because that has been a sort of a narrative that's been spun in media throughout the pandemic. Like, oh, we say goodbye to the office forever, and we will never have offices, and we will never have people working within the offices. But that's not actually true. And we talk also, or there has been talks, and I think it was a LinkedIn article that came out late last year that talked about 3-2-2. So you spend 3 days in the office, you spend 2 days working from home, and then you have 2 days off. And you could sort of, choose a bit when that was, but it was up to the employer to decide when those 3 days were allocated. And I don't think that is the thing either. Like, that's not what people want when you read the service. They want the flexibility, they want the ability and autonomy to choose themselves. And have that ability of saying, like, this fits my life. I can't say I'm going to work every Wednesday, because some weeks I want to work Wednesdays, some weeks I want to work on a Tuesday. So it's very obvious that people, it's their flexibility they are after. It's not the set days or the set sort of, it's they want to choose simply. But those who wants an office then, because like that's a thing when I've discussed this in the past, like, but if we have people that want to be in office, yeah, but let them be in the office. Like, the great show West Wing has a fantastic episode called "Let Bartlett Be Bartlett." If you're a West Wing fan, you know that, I think. But it's the same here. Let the people who wants to work in the office work in the office. Like I said, we're not going to take it away from them. And if you are one of those persons that I really want to work on the office, then work in the office. Like, no, I don't think we should force anyone to go fully remote if they don't want to. But I think, once again, that we will need to look at the flexibility. Like, what will this mean for those of us who don't want to work in the office full time? And how do we offer them that flexibility? But it's just good to mention that, because sometimes I think, at least myself, and I can only speak for myself, I tend to sort of, okay, but yeah, that's a group, like, they, yeah, we take care of them later. And to some extent, yes, but it's good to have in mind that there's people still want to work in the office, and they might scramble now when they hear, hey, where would I go? And yeah, reinforce that, hey, there's still going to be an office. You can work from that office. And for us, when I say for us, I mean for us as leaders, as HR people. What does this mean for us? Because I think this has implications, obviously, and I'm not going to today go into all the implications that it has, because then I would stand here talking for several hours. But what I do want to mention is it's about expectation setting in terms of how will your workplace structure the work once we are allowed to go back to work. And the service shows that there are expectations from employees that the employer will offer flexibility. And if you look at the employer side of things, they say that yeah, we might offer flexibility. We don't know to what extent, and we don't know when, but most likely, like, there's a discrepancy between what the employees think that the employer will offer and what the employer actually think that they will offer. And I mean, in almost all cases where things go wrong, where you have conflict or whatever that might be, it's about a difference in expectations. So I think, and my urge, if you're going to take one thing away from this sort of YouTube thingy that you attended this morning with a bald man that's rambling in English, it's that, like, talk about the expectations, and already now start to think about how will your workplace look, and how will your workplace allow flexibility once we are back in sort of a post COVID world. So start managing those expectations for people, and plan. Like, we scrambled into this. We were thrown into this COVID remote work situation. I mean, it was almost overnight, one day to another, like, hey, you now need to work fully remote. And I mean, we did a tremendous job and we HR, maybe not so nice to talk about your profession like that we did a great job, but we did. So let's be honest about that. We did a great job around getting people to that remote work state of mind, and as we can see, like, productivity remained the same. So I think we did a lot of things right, but I think it also took a toll on people. Like, we needed to scramble fast, and we needed to make sure our people were safe. Now let's don't make the same mistake again when we go back. Like, if we know that things will change, if we can see that already now, start planning for it and make a deliberate effort around that. And how do you do that then? I think you do it by internal service and talking to people. Like, what do you want? What do you expect from us as a workplace? And do it now. Like, because if you do it now, you will be better prepared later on. As said, like, and I can say it again, like, prepare, and plan for this. So it's a deliberate effort, not something that just happens. And all of a sudden, your CEO wants everyone to be back in the office, and you have to just scramble to get people into the office again. And I got a question here. Do you think we will see companies downsize their big offices for more central locations? Yeah, I think I'm gonna get back to what I think, but I think that would be true. I think we'll see a decrease in big offices, and I think we will see different pattern emerges, and I think also companies need to do it differently, but obviously, but yeah, it's I think we will see that. And I should emphasize that part more. Like, there is no wrong or right here. Like, if your company decides that we want people to work 5 days a week from the office, like, everyone should work 5 days a week from the office because reasons, then I mean, that's fine. You can decide that, but then I think you also need to communicate that very clearly to your employees, and you should probably already now start to communicate that so they know, and so they can mentally prepare and also have a think about, hey, do I want to work here? Because I think that would be a consequence. But and now I'm also giving away what I think about this. But it's, I think there is really no wrong or right, but I do think that you need to be prepared. And I agree, Chris. Like, I think we need to be more flexible with our offices and let people use them as a working space. Yep. municipality, for example, could be more open with I 100% agree, and I think also that's where we're going. I also think that once we are out of this, I think we will see co-working spaces emerging like never before. Because I do think, I mean, most people, they might work, if they work in an office that is used to be located in Stockholm, for example, and they lived in Eskilstuna, or Västerås or Uppsala, like you could still want to have interaction with people, and you could still want an office, I might say, but you might not want to go to the office in Stockholm, and then you might look for a co-working space to sit 1 or 2 days a week because you want that human interaction with whatever humans there might be. So yeah, I think there will be a lot of differences in this. So that said, I struggle with how I should structure this, in all honesty, like, because I thought maybe I should start with what others do and infuse it somewhere a bit earlier, but I did want to save that for the reason of just get you thinking before I started talking about what others are thinking. So we're going to talk about what others do then. And first and foremost, the most famous example, I think, is Twitter. And Twitter, they were super early to say, like, we will allow remote work for everyone, everywhere. And if you, I think they were on the verge of doing this already before COVID hit, but they just accelerated, and they were super clear and deliberate about that early. Like, hey, we'll do it. I think their CEO, Jack Dorsey, he had an epiphany one night and just sent an email to company all and saying, like, hey, we will allow remote work without checking with anyone, more or less. But yeah, maybe not do that, but they are allowing it. And for them, like, the reason why is autonomy, freedom, improves morale, and retention and productivity. That's what they're seeing. And I mean, it's a super deliberate decision from them, their end. And if you go into their career site, you'll see they have a ton of openings remotely, mainly in the US, because that's where they're mostly at, but they do offer remote work throughout the globe as well. Facebook, same thing here. They have scrambled a lot around, like, how to do it, and Mark Zuckerberg, and if you've been listening to me before, like if you listen to HR-nyheter, if you've been listening to other webinars that I've had, I've talked about this in the past, like, but he did a 1-hour session around how they're gonna work in the future. I'll try to link it in the description below here after the session, or put it in the comment after the session. But it's a really good talk to listen to if you want to hear his thoughts around how they're going to do remote work. And they're trying it out for software engineers in the US now mainly. And he also believes that next 5 to 10 years, close to 10, then half of the company will be working remotely permanently. And then I gotta state that is working permanently remote. Like, it's not going to the office 1 day a week or anything like that's permanent. They're going to work permanent remote. And then we have Kry, and in all transparency, I'm a consultant at Kry. I'm part of their people team. So and the talent company that I work for, we have a lot of assignments with Kry. So I've been part of this, but yesterday Kry announced that they will allow remote work for all non-critical clinical staff, and because there are some clinical staff that needs to be on site, but for software engineers, administrative roles in general, Kry will allow remote work throughout their all entities that they operate right now. And Anna, who's the CHRO, she says it's the output that counts, not where the work is done. And the rationale behind this is obviously then also, and for all of the companies, one of the rationales is obviously the talent market. Like, approaching a bigger talent market is one of the main wins with this, where you increase your talent pool by just waving a magic wand almost. So once again, focusing on output. And I'll see you, Tommy. I'll answer you shortly. I'm just going to roll through this because we're running out of time as well. And 921, any guess what that is? I'm not going to, as we have short of time, I'm not going to wait for the answer, sorry. But it's the open remote jobs on LinkedIn yesterday evening. So there is a lot of a lot of jobs out there that are allowed to be remotely now. And it's everything. Like, it's everything from investment manager to software engineer to head of R&D. Like, there's a ton of different roles that they are allowing now to be remotely done. So there is a lot of work. There is, even though the examples now were mainly American, there's a lot of Swedish company already doing this as well. Maybe not. I haven't seen so much around like, hey, we are allowing everyone to be remotely as Credit did, but yeah, it's. I think it's happening. And that is also my take. Like I said, I'm going to share my take, and my take is that it's inevitable. Like this will happen. Remote work and flexible work will happen. It will for sure be a thing. It already is a thing. It's not. I mean, we ended up here because we needed to. But now that we ended up here because we needed to, I see no way that we are going back. Like there's no way this is not going to happen. And if you have an employer that thinks that, hey, we might in the future be able to poach talent that are sort of willing to sit 5 days a week in the office, I think that is a wrong assumption to do for the majority of your people. There will be people, as said, that are fine with that. But I think if you want to be an attractive employer in the future, you need to offer flexible work. It's as simple as that. Like if you don't do that, you will have a hard time recruiting people. And I mean, it has so much consequences, but it's still, I think that will be the way forward. And I mean, if you look at the big giants like Facebook, Twitter, and all those big tech companies that now are allowing, Microsoft is doing as well, Amazon is doing as well, like they're going to start poach talent outside where they operate right now, and then we will see an even more fierce sort of fight for good, especially then engineering talent, which is now the hottest thing, or has been for a while. So I mean, it's gonna be the candidates market in some sense, I think, which it already is, but it's gonna be an increase in that. That is my take. And a structured way of working with objectives follows up should be a must, right? Yes, it is definitely. And I would love to like spend a lot of time going into that, but it actually leads up to this. Like, it's all good now then. Like we've decided, like flexible work life or flexible work, that's the new thing. Everything is fine, all good. It's really not. It comes with a lot of issues and challenges and problems that we as an HR function needs to tackle. And I just listed some of them. I mean, this is not a complete list at all. And I promise you, I will get back to how to tackle this in the future. I will do more web like YouTube sessions, and I'm hoping that some of you who listens to this would be willing to share as well how you're thinking around this. So it's not only going to be me, but I promise you we'll get back to this as well, because the list is long around what challenges and problems and things we need to solve in order to make this work. But the problem, but the interesting thing, I think, is that you see this list and you think, like, oh, it's so long. But it's also, if you're in HR and if you're a leader, this is also some things, or most things, I would say, on this list is something you work on already. It's just that you need to rethink them or think differently or approach them in different ways. So it's not rocket science, and it's not totally news for us, I would say. It's just that we have to go back to the drawing board and then rethink it. And it will have an impact on society. And I'm running out of time. I promised 20 minutes. I'm 28 now. So we'll see. And as said, what will this mean for your organization? And then I have a bonus slide. Because people always ask me around, okay, do you have any practical tips for tools to use when working remotely? And I have, and these are the two sort of most recent ones that I discovered that I really like. And it's Around, which is it's a video meeting tool, and they say good zoom out, meet around, they say, which I think is quite funny. And I really urge you to check it out, like around.co. And it's really, it's centric around making the video experience better for people who are working remotely, but also for people working within the office. So you can connect everyone if you have 4 people in a conference room, they can connect to Around, and you see their individual faces like they were remote, but they're still in the same room. And it has AI and fancy stuff that helps. And then Please, who is a Danish company, which offers sort of a Netflix library for small and fun exercises you can do with your team. remotely. Like you can all look at those, and yeah, it's a really fun way of connecting through video, I would say. And also they have a health component as well, where you offer exercises to people who are remotely, and hence if they do that, they will increase their health and well-being. So those two are things that I really urge you to check out. And I said, I'll get back with more things on this topic. As you can see, the list was long. And yeah, I think it's an exciting future. It's a scary future, but I think we will get there together. And that's what this channel is all about, doing it together. That's why I'm here, because I think that we are better together. And I hope that you got something out of this. And I'm super happy for your time. And let's have a fantastic Thursday. And yeah, be sure to subscribe. I like when you subscribe. So yeah. Thank you so much, and have a happy Thursday.